Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are totally flipping the script on traditional personal finance. Listen, for decades, we've all been handed the exact same generic advice, right? Just follow these rigid rules and you'll magically achieve financial freedom. But what if that conventional wisdom is actually the very thing holding you back? What if the standard rules are just a little too comfortable? Well, today, we are tearing down that old framework. We're handing you something entirely new, highly intentional, and honestly incredibly effective. We're talking about the zero-based budgeting blueprint.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. Rethinking the 50-30-20 rule and the very real problem with percentages.
So you probably know the drill. 50% of your income goes to your needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings or debt. Now, it sounds awesome on paper, doesn't it? It's simple, it's neat, it's easy to remember. But why doesn't it actually work for everyone? Well, the fundamental flaw here is that it relies on these massive, broad percentage buckets. When you just vaguely assign 30% of your hard-earned money to wants, you're creating a huge gray area. It is way too easy for unintentional, totally unchecked spending to just hide inside that giant bucket. You aren't really managing your money at that point, you're just loosely categorizing it as it flies out the window.
Now check out the stark contrast between these two methods. On the left, we've got those broad percentage buckets from the 50-30-20 rule. Passive, vague, and super prone to leakage. But on the right, that's zero-based budgeting. This is absolutely the better alternative because it forces total intentionality. Instead of throwing a third of your paycheck into some giant whatever bucket, you are forced to make an active, deliberate decision for every single dollar you earn. Nothing, and I mean nothing, happens by accident.
And that brings us perfectly to the core philosophy of this whole system. Section 2. Give every dollar a job. It's all about assigning your income.
So zero-based budgeting is basically a method where every single dollar of your income gets assigned a specific job before the month even kicks off. You leave absolutely nothing unassigned. I want you to adopt a massive mindset shift here. Imagine you are the CEO of a company, and every dollar you earn is your employee. Now, you would never hire 100 people, let them wander around the break room aimlessly and just cross your fingers hoping the work gets done, right? No way. You'd give them specific tasks. You are the boss. When you leave dollars unassigned in your checking account, those are idle employees just sitting around. Zero-based budgeting makes sure no dollar is left without a strict mandate from you.
And this brilliantly illustrates the fundamental mathematical equation behind this whole shift. Income minus expenses, and yes, that critically includes your savings, equals exactly zero. You are not aiming to have extra money just floating around at the end of the month. If there's cash left over, it just means you haven't given it a job yet. Maybe its job is sitting in an emergency fund or an index fund, but it has to be assigned. The math absolutely must zero out.
So how do we actually pull this off? Let's move to Section 3, the 4-step process. We're going to build your blueprint.
All right, here is your 4-step procedural arc, and it's beautifully straightforward. Step 1, start with your total monthly income. That's your total workforce for the month. Step 2, list every single expense category, and I mean everything. Not just rent and power bills, but groceries, transport, debt, savings, and yes, even your fund money. Step 3, assign a hard dollar amount to each of those categories. And finally, Step 4, you keep adjusting those assignments until your income minus all those amounts hits exactly zero. If you're in the negative, well, you got to cut somewhere. If you're positive, you've got more jobs to hand out.
Let's see how this actually builds in the real world. Welcome to Section 4, the math in action.
To really ground this process, we're going to set the stage with a hypothetical scenario. Let's say your total monthly income is exactly $4,000. This is the exact amount of capital you have to deploy. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Okay, let's rapidly tick through these itemized expenses and watch where every single employee dollar is going. Rent takes the biggest bite, $1,500. Savings gets a VIP job right out of the gate at $600. Groceries, $500. Fun and discretionary spending gets $500 too. We're tackling debt with $400. Transport gets $300. And finally, bills and utilities get $200. Do you see how incredibly specific this is? No hesitation at all. Every single dollar knows exactly where it's supposed to go. Boom. Zero. $4,000 came in, and exactly $4,000 was assigned a job. There is literally not a single idle dollar left over to get randomly spent on some late-night online shopping spree. You've hit zero, which means you are in total, absolute control of your finances for the month.
Now, of course, while the math we just looked at is foolproof on paper, the real world is definitely messier. Let's pivot to Section 5, Budget Mistakes, and talk about dodging the common pitfalls.
So there are a few major traps that trip people up. The first one is a total classic, forgetting irregular expenses. Honestly, nothing blows up a beautifully planned budget faster than the government mailing you a surprise car registration bill, or suddenly realizing that obscure streaming service you never watched just auto-renewed for a whole year. You got to anticipate these and put dollars in a holding category for them ahead of time. The second mistake is not giving savings a job, which is huge, and we'll dig into that in a second. And the third, being wildly too rigid in month one.
So the crucial point here is this. Treating savings as a leftover instead of a line item is the absolute death of wealth building. Seriously, if your strategy is just paying your bills, buying groceries, having fun, and then crossing your fingers that there's something left over to toss into savings, you're never going to save a dime. Savings cannot be an afterthought. It has to be an active, non-negotiable line item. It's a VIP job you assign to your dollars before the month even starts.
And hey, regarding that third mistake about being too rigid, you absolutely have to adjust as you go. I want to reassure you right now, month one of zero-based budgeting is going to be a little messy. You'll probably underestimate your grocery bill and overestimate your gas costs. That is perfectly fine. The whole beauty of this system is that you are the boss. If you run out of grocery money, you just fire a few dollars from the fund money department and rehire them for the grocery job. You just tweak the numbers so the bottom line stays at zero. Give yourself the grace to figure it out.
So, we've completely deconstructed the old rules and built a brand new blueprint based on pure, zero-based intentionality. We've looked at the math, we've handed out the jobs, and we've navigated the traps. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to take with you today. When that very next paycheck hits your account, what job will you give your next dollar? Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer, and I'll see you next time.